Welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome. Welcome back if you have. My intention is unity and oneness on the highest levels of love light. I just wanted to go into a little bit of flow. Happy eclipse day. I did a brief video yesterday centered around the eclipse and kind of the message that was coming through from my guides, which was basically relax. I'm going to continue with that flow and see what wants to come through. I'm in my office, aka my car. I've got my wonderful sunflower behind me. I figured that would be appropriate for today. So let's just go into a little flow and talk about, we'll see what just wants to come through. I just want to play. So as we find ourselves in this space in what we may refer to as a portal of energy that is coming in fluctuation, in flux, in a deep and expansive at the same time influx of space, aka, in other words, we are creating a space. Something about that's a play on words, actually, aka. I'll have to play with that, otherwise known as space. There is a time-space continuum, if you wish to call it that, that is leaking through and giving us a pendulated, I'm seeing a pendulum, but I'm hearing pendulated equinox springboard. And we're going to play with this. So this is a warm-up and a reminder for me, I'm just waking up, you guys, to stay kind of with the words as much as possible and not get hung up on the definition. Let's do a little light language. As we share these words as an example, we use them as a source, as a frequency, a source of frequency, or we share the frequency through the source of language and vowels and the mechanizations of the making of the vowels, if you will, through the human instrument that is the sound or sounding board for this information, energetic waveform, font form technology, if you will. Now, in this particular space and time, we are connecting with other points that are laterally combined together to form a type of grid pattern, if you will. This grid pattern allows us access into different levels and layers of the space, the energy, the waves, the grid network, if you will, that all is embedded in and through. We're using this as a particular visualization, if you will. If you visualize a web of energy that looks like a grid, we invite you to get out of a definition of a cube or lattice work structure. For this is a geometric grid that has different, I'm hearing isosceles, triangulations, and points that are merging together in this influx of energy. Almost what I'm seeing is like picture a Rubik's Cube, but it has other geometric shapes inside that cube. And then I'm seeing them open and expand and be like all of a sudden they start moving and spinning. Morphing is what I'm hearing. And it changes almost like cymatics, when you put sound and it changes the shape of whatever the medium is that's being expressed, whether they're putting the sound through water or putting the sound on sand. If you guys don't know what cymatics are, I would encourage you to look them up, or what it means. It's sound. And what I'm being shown is there's something happening to where our matrix or frequency that we exist within, I'm hearing the platonic solids, are no longer solidified. There becomes a liquefaction at this particular point in time that allows for a stream to be jetted out to connect with other points in time. we would also venture to say this is beyond time. It actually has more to do with the lattice work structure of reality. It allows us to open up and to isolate different nodes, if you will, or points on the grid map that we are all not only encapsulated within. I'm hearing, did you guys ever see the movie Tron? It's kind of like Tron or The Matrix, if you want to call it that. And this allows us to conjunct with other points on the map. Once these points are connected, it creates a lattice work of unequaled proportions. So it bridges two reality structures, but wait, there's more is what I'm hearing. So more than just two. It bridges reality structures in such a way that we are able to interact, interlace, interface, dock into multiple realities at any given moment. We'll go into this maybe later because I'm trying to figure it out, but I'm being called Carrie to stay in flow. And this allows us to harness these energies that were previously solid. So what I'm being shown is not solid, but when you make something more pliable and more elastic, it creates more space. So it allows it to, liquid, right, is easier to swim through, of course, than solid. When you jump into a pool of Jello, not that I've ever jumped into, but like picture Boing or a bouncy house before, now it's like liquefied. The molecular scaling, one might call it, becomes easier to combine with the scaling principles of this reality, and it allows us to scale up. It allows us to shift the scales and create more balance and harmony in an otherwise unbalanced and unharmonious space. While some are feeling the shift or the rift, others will feel very balanced because they have already processed this information. And we would venture to say that many of you watching this particular channel and channels like this have already created the springboard necessary to alchemize this energy and allow for facing the faces, the facets, facing the many facets that are about to present themselves. And so there are those of us who have accessed this beforehand. So like we've pre-waved it. And there are those who will continue to access this throughout the year. For this particular spectrum of light that is creating this spectacular convergence of humanity is important specifically just because it is creating a spectacle that people are focusing on in order to restore a sense of awe and wonder of and in connected with our reality structure. Many people have forgotten how powerful coming together in celebration of an event can feel, can look like, can be. Can we, as humanity, support one another during this beautiful time? Can we feel the excitement that each one of us projects during this time and relax into it so we can balance out the negativity that people are projecting onto this event that is also creating an impact, an energetic ripple, if you will, that can be felt in the masses when we are combined. So I'm just being shown, it's like when you go to a concert or when you go to a sporting event, you feel the excitement. So we're all feeling this excitement. Not everyone is, but many people are. So can we do our best to stabilize that energy so that we can really enjoy the experience and support one another in the enjoyment of the experience, and not try to be not trying to be in that place of negativity right now, even if it's just for today, right? It's kind of like what I talked about in my other video with Reiki. When you're doing Reiki, you know, you're asking, help me to be in the moment. And just for this moment, while I'm working with this other person, let go of all my other baggage, because it's not about me, it's about this connection, and it's about who I'm working with. So it's kind of the same idea around this. Can we let go of all of our belief systems around what it might be or what it looks like, and just enjoy the moment? And this is what we're being called to do in many different aspects. For many of us are caught up in the propaganda and the ironic, I'm hearing ironicity, the ironic part and the idiocracy. And this is a play on words. It's not making fun of anyone, but it's funny because oftentimes those who we are making fun of are actually the ones who have a different vibratory. Okay, I'm being shown like there's a lot of people out there right now that are putting other people down for their beliefs, whether it be they believe in the energies around, let's talk about the eclipse, for example, or they don't, or they know more scientifically than somebody else does, so they're making fun of someone who is not as educated, or the fear-based people are saying, well, you're an idiot because you don't believe this, or you're an idiot because you do believe this. I'm just being shown that all of that is something to be aware of, because that lowers our frequency, that judgment, that idea of being better than someone or someone else being below us in intelligence or in this ascension journey. I know I'm preaching to the choir here for some people, but it's just a gentle reminder that I'm hearing, let's get off our high horses. I'm hearing hi ho silver. Oh boy, that takes me to a whole other spin. And be more compatible with the energies, because those energies are not compatible with the frequencies that are coming in. It's almost as if we're shooting ourselves in the foot if we are in a place where we're casting, I'm hearing casting stones, casting shadows, casting judgment. Those words, those letters have a geometry that cast a shadow. So how big of a shadow are we casting by, and I'm not going to keep going there. I think you guys get the point. So just being aware of our words and being aware that we may not agree with other people's, what I'm hearing again is idiocracy. But we all have moments of idiocracy, and I'm hearing, can't you see, can't you see? Just like, can't you see? Well, I don't see what you see, and you don't see what I see, even though we're looking at the same thing sometimes. So we're all going to get something different from this, in other words. So in this now moment, we are being invited to recognize that the molecular exchange that is happening right before, in front of, and behind our very eyes are massively shifting how we feel about how we feel. So don't be surprised if how we feel about things might shift drastically. Don't be surprised if one day we feel this immense gratitude and overwhelm, heartfelt consideration for people that never even fell on our radar before. Now we become very much aware how far our radar expands to. For each of us are harnessing a wave of energy as we allow ourselves to expand and ride this wave, not just from today, but every day from hereforth. Hereforth. We are each and individually riding our own wave of energy. And so as we ride this energy, as we write the waves, cycles that we seek to participate in, we begin to shift the cycles and what it is that we choose to participate in. We begin to shift how we choose to show up and participate. We begin to change the cycles that many of us have been deeply interwoven within for a very long time. And we begin to rewrite how it is that we interact and perceive time. This has been a message over and over again, but we highlight this in this now moment, for it is a significant change and shift that many are experiencing. I keep hearing latitude, so I'll have to come back and play with this because I don't have my computer. Usually I would pop on and play with that word. So many different exchanges will be occurring between individuals at the higher levels. So being open to these exchanges is important. For if we are not centered and we are not allowing ourselves to focus in on the clues of what is being presented to us, we begin to lose our footing. We begin to lose the connection. We begin to not recognize that we are the glue that is holding together reality. Not all of us will continually be able to hold it together at every moment of every given day. And this is where we're being called to support one another. And so on and so forth. There's something about fourths coming up in this. Fours probably has to do with music. 4 has to do with manifestation. 4th dimension. A lot of that stuff. So we'll end on this note. The more we can allow ourselves to, I'm seeing people writing love notes, feeling into the note of love, feeling into the prescription. The messages, how I hear them is just kind of funny sometimes. It's a little bit all over the place today, you guys. But I'm just seeing like a prescription in RX. It's like, I'm going to write you a prescription. Here you go. I love you. The love note is the prescription. Finding that space in our hearts to forgive, finding that space in our hearts to let go of fear, finding that space in our hearts to let go of the fear of where we are headed. Getting out of our heads about where we are headed will help us see more clearly. And getting back into our hearts will allow us to project our reality in a much more concise and predictable format, only in the sense of we know where we're going when we know thyself, even though we don't necessarily know where we're going. We trust that the boat, our vessel, Kaaba, all that, is taking us in the right direction because we are fully compatible with our signs. Play on words, astrology. We are fully compatible with ourselves and the ability to read the signs that our higher selves are constantly giving us. Whether they be an animal that shows up in front of us that we are being called to read the energy of, to recognize, to feel into, whether we are being called to to converse with a fellow human who is having difficult times, and we are called then to get out of our own difficult times to offer support and care for one another. Whether or not we are headed in one direction or another, feeling secure in ourselves helps us to gather the strength and the sense of clarity that we are moving into a new reality from this new configuration of the heart. Once we find that balance, it streamlines everything and allows us to connect with all of the I'm hearing we we enhance, it's like a higher capacity, a capacitance. I think that has to do with the electricity. We hold more energy. We're able to hold the energy longer. We're able to feel when something isn't right and we can move away from that. I'm going to give a for instance. I had a client I was working with, and you guys have all had that when you get an intuitive nudge and you don't follow it. It happens to me all the time with little stuff. And I do this. This is my, this is what I do. I offer intuitive coaching. I offer intuitive sessions, and then I'm going along throughout my day, and the universe is like, turn right. And I'm like, I really want to go left though. There I go, and almost get into a car accident, or end up stuck someplace for an hour when I could have already been, these little things that are constantly being shown to us. And not so little things, you guys, not so little things. Signs and clues about the universe, about loved ones that are trying to connect with us. I could go on and on. So they're trying to let me know right now that the signs are going to ramp up for all of us. And each of us has our own individual way of communicating with source. So for some people, I'm going to give it, for instance, I had a beautiful session with this woman the other day who she's just an incredible soul. And she lost a child at a young age. And I was able to tune into this child who was just beautiful too. Everything's awesome. And not everything is always sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes I tune into people who are going through difficult times or went through difficult times and sometimes they want to say sorry or apologize or whatever it might be. Anyways, so I've got to pause this just for a second. So what happened was the sign that she was asking for and that was given to me was the butterfly. And I second guessed that because I thought everybody, when a loved one passes on, what are the common themes? Butterflies, cardinals, hummingbirds, and feathers. Of course, these are all things that we look for, or pennies, coins, pennies on the ground. These are things that a lot of us have tuned into before. But in this case, I was called to say the story of the butterfly, because this client asked, well, why the butterfly? And the answer that came through, because I didn't know what this specification was it's not just about seeing a butterfly. It's the story of the butterfly that's relevant for her. So I tend to then say, okay, well, what is the story of the butterfly? So I repeated what that represented to me. Butterfly is not the same. It goes from one energy to a completely different, it's stuck on the ground, crawling around. And now all of a sudden it's a completely different creature, and it's flying and is light as a feather, where before it was all stuck and goopy. Now it's light as a feather and beautiful. And also what happens when we look at butterflies, it makes us feel light, beautiful. And we go, oh, butterfly, at least I do. But interestingly enough, it turned out that this woman had actually come back to the school where her son passed and had read to them, these first or second graders, about the story of a butterfly. She read that to the class after her son passed. So I'm getting goosebumps. That was the relevance of that. So we can look these are signs. So they're reminders for us about experiences we've had. Sometimes that's an example of me listening to my intuition and saying what came through, even though I was kind of like, okay, it's not that big of a deal. There was more to it. And that's what the guides are sharing with me. There's more to this. So stop looking at things as black or white or wrong or right. Start looking at things as multidimensional, multifaceted, many different layers. Start looking at the deeper meaning behind everything. But at the same time, if you're going to eat an ice cream cone, enjoy the ice cream cone. You don't have to go into too much depth, whether that's a coconut ice cream or regular ice cream. I'm just saying, be in the moment, enjoy it. It's not like I'm going to necessarily look at the ice cream and then go into, wow, this cone has diamond shapes on it. And the sprinkles, they're put in a particular direction. And that reminds me of the Orion constellation. And now, granted, sometimes when I'm in a flow, that can happen. But I'm not going to do that all the time, because that takes me into not enjoying the simplicity of the taste and the texture. You see where I'm going with this? So there are always deeper meanings to things, but sometimes it's just about enjoying the simplicity of the moment. So that was another message that's coming through, finding that balance. So the signs, you guys, I'll do another video on signs maybe at some point. I'm going to end on this note. Pay attention, all the synchronicities that come up. We are getting messages. We're constantly having downloads and activations. The more we're in our heart and able to just relax a little bit, the more those will become obvious to us. The more they will become helpful to us. And the less frustrated we're going to feel that we're not getting those signs, or the less frustrated we begin to feel about other people's journeys. And that's the message that's coming in, and their choices. So on and so forth. Enjoy the eclipse today, you guys. And yeah, I hope that everybody just opens their hearts like this beautiful sunflower. I'll share my meditation really quick and then I've got to run, but this sunflower is significant for me. All sunflowers are. About 5 years ago, I had a massive activation around 2011. And of course, I've been having them my whole life, but I finally became aware that I was having them. I wasn't, maybe, like I said earlier, I wasn't exactly centered before. So I didn't recognize that that's what was going on. So finally, I started to recognize I was having these activations. I had this meditation where I left my body in this meditation and was a bee, a honeybee. And I was flying in my mind's eye. It was like I was astral projecting almost into the sky. And around me were thousands of other bees. And we were all headed to these sunflowers that were in the sky. There was a sunflower over here and there was a sunflower over there. There were multiple sunflowers. One was far away, one was close up. And so all of us were thousands in the sky, and all of a sudden we began to converge. And the group I was with of these honeybees came up to this massive sunflower, and we went into the sunflower and it became the sun. And this was a vision I had 5 years ago or so. We flew into the sun that became this honeycomb of light. And in the next vision I had, I was inside of this honeycomb of light, and all of us were vibrating like you would in a beehive. All of us were vibrating. And it was just the most incredible sensation, feeling that I had being at one with all of these honeybees and just being totally encapsulated in that shape of the honeycomb, this light golden nectar. And I felt completely at one with the actual honeycomb and the bees. And I came out of the meditation a changed person. I literally was buzzing. And that was an activation for me. That was an aha for me. And some people might have a vision like that and blow it off like, oh, what, it was just my imagination. It doesn't matter what it is. If it has an impact on us, it impacts our senses, our emotions, whatever it is, it means something. And it's not something to take for granted, because that's part of the experience. That's part of our entire experience. It's equally important as everything else in our lives. Taking those moments to connect with what is beyond the material, you know, everything. Being aware of that helps us to be sensitive to all the things in nature, to be aware of our extrasensory perception that is not necessarily looking at something and seeing it as black or white. Close your eyes and look at it. Close your eyes and feel it. Close your eyes and open your heart and sense, what does that feel like? These are the things we're being invited to really activate because they're part of our template. They're part of our temple. They're part of us. So, in love and light, guys. Namaste.